Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my live show. If you're hitting us live at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the West Coast on this Tuesday, it is June 13th, 2023. I've got a great show for you today, and I welcome you. You have come to me, my show, which is Balanced Life by Debbie Carlin Boyle, or with Debbie Carlin Boyle. This is conversations that connect to a healthier you. And I say that because I want you to get involved in our conversation today. So if you're not driving and you're able to, I want you to take down a phone number. You can call us to ask a question or make a comment anytime during the show. We'd love to hear from you. The number here is area code 323-524-2599. Going to say it again a little slower. 323-524-2599. So make a comment, ask a question. If by chance you're watching after the show and you're watching it as a recording, then you can go to my Facebook page where we are streaming live right now, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, D-E-B-I, and ask a question or make a comment there, and we'll get back to you, myself or my guest, post-show. The same is true where we're streaming live on my YouTube channel. Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle, conversations connecting to a healthier you, again spelled D-E-B-I, and in the comment section you can make a comment or ask a question and we will get back to you. I've said this before, but comments and questions go on and on because my shows are archived. So no matter what time the show is being listened to or watched, you can ask a question, make a comment, get involved in the conversation, and we could just keep it going and going and going. So before we start the show, and I tell you a little bit about what we're going to get into today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. And my mission and my passion is to help you or anyone find balance in their life. And the way we do that is through small, actionable steps that I know through all of my education and research work. And by working with me, I can give you the opportunity to dive into all of those little, small, actionable steps. So, for any reason, if you have something in your life that's not in balance, it might be financial, it might be your exercise, it might be your sleep, it might be your career or your creativity or your home life. When relationships, I am really skilled in helping people bring that back up on the totem pole to a balanced level, and I'd love to help you. And by doing that, you can go to my website, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com, and there you can go ahead and just fill in the subscribe, and I will get back to you right away. You'll see a pop-up when you go there for a summer detox. And this is something that is researched well and tried and true. There are 3 recipes a day for 3 days to help you feel lighter and get into that bathing suit. So when you're out on the beach or doing those water sports, you kind of get rid of that little bloat. It's like a jump start to summer for you. And we are in it. We're in the beginning of it. And it's happening even though the weather here in Southern California is not exactly cooperating. There are, people out and about on the beaches. School is out. So I want to help you feel better. And it's easy, delicious. There's a shopping guide on there. Go check it out. I know that you won't regret it. So let's talk about the show that we're getting into today, because finding time for meditation is a challenge for many of us. Jam-packed schedules and hurried lives makes it difficult to find time to create a meditation practice. It's estimated that 200 to 500 million people meditate worldwide. Over 14% of Americans have meditated at least once in their lives. Meditation improves anxiety levels 60% of the time. Meditation can reduce the risk of being hospitalized for coronary disease by 87%. And meditation can reduce the wake time of people with insomnia by 50%. Those are pretty astonishing numbers. So my guest today is Neil McKinlay. He is a meditation teacher and mentor, reflecting a long-standing interest in how this work enriches and is enriched by our everyday lives. He offers a range of resources that encourage us to let the wisdom we touch through our practice come into the world we share. These include 2 online communities, the free to access Living Meditation Network and online gatherings, as well as Bringing Meditation to Life podcast. So let's talk about how anyone can bring meditation into their lives. Will you please welcome my guest, Neil McKinlay, to the show. There's our audience. Hi, Neil. Good afternoon.
Hey, Debbie. Thanks for that. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you for taking your afternoon in beautiful Victoria. You're in Canada.
Yep.
So thank you for spending this afternoon with us to give us some of your wisdom and insight into meditation. Yeah. I do appreciate it and appreciate
pleasure.
You. Yay. So I start most of my shows off, if you've listened or watched any, with a little bit of background about you and then having it segue or lead up to why you're doing what you do today. And I know you've taken some different waves that you've ridden to this meditation practice that you have now. But I really want to start with, where you were born, how you were raised, and what actually helped you find this practice. So let's start from the beginning.
Well, excuse me. The beginning is actually relevant to the whole meditation story. I was born in Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh.
And I lived there for almost 2 years before my parents and myself emigrated to Canada, to the west coast of Canada. We went to Vancouver first.
Why? Can I ask why?
That is a family mystery.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, a great aunt had sent a postcard from... My parents were looking around for someplace else to live. My father was an accountant, which meant that his living situation was fairly flexible. He could get work almost anywhere. And somehow it got narrowed down to New Zealand or Canada. And a great aunt had sent a postcard from the west coast of Canada that apparently triggered something. And so Vancouver it was. That's where
well, there you have it. There's your why.
So. There's the why. And so I grew up in Vancouver, eventually moved to Victoria. Somewhere in there, I had problems with my hip. I was one of those kids who spent their nights at a certain point wearing splints, those horrible things that turn your toes out, that kind of you lace into them at night and sleep like that. So I had these hip issues that the splints were supposed to help, and swimming was also supposed to be beneficial. So I started swimming in Vancouver. I was pretty good at it. I quite liked it. We moved to Victoria, and as it happens, there was a swim team in Victoria where the head coach, a fellow by the name of Ian Black, was a very famous Scottish Olympic swimmer. So rather than moving to Victoria and going into swimming lessons, which is what I'd been doing in Vancouver, I moved to Victoria and joined a swim club, Ian Black's Flying Y Swim Club. And I swam there for a number of years. And then Ian left town for, I can't remember what reason. We couldn't find another coach. The team folded. I went to another team. Fast forward a couple of years, on that team. I'm a teenager. I'm getting more and more excited and involved in my competitive swimming life. And we have this coaching staff that is interested in and attuned to the unique athletic moment that we were in at that point in time. And so we're talking about the late 1970s, the early 1980s at this point. And what we now call sports psychology was beginning to ease its way into mainstream sports. And these coaches, with their fingers on this pulse, were very open to this. And so we did a lot of things back then that were at the time considered weird, which is funny to think about now because many of them are completely normal. But we did a bunch of things that were considered weird at that time, like goal setting and visualization and progressive relaxation. We did subliminal seduction, which frankly still is a little bit weird. We would lie on the ground and listen to sounds recordings of a babbling brook, and underneath you could hear someone say, "You're going to swim fast this weekend. You're going to swim fast this weekend," or whatever message it was they wanted to instill in our teenage brains. And one Saturday night, away at a swim meet in Vancouver, the girls were all staying in a conference room in a hotel with a swim mom. The boys were all staying in another conference room with the assistant coach. And said assistant coach decided to teach us how to meditate. And so we rolled up our sleeping bags and we gathered in a corner of the conference room. I don't remember much of what happened. I remember it was raining outside. I remember there was a lot of neon and like street lights and the sound of cars on slick roads. But we were taught how to meditate. And something about the practice grabbed me from the very beginning. I felt like when I was lying in my sleeping bag afterwards, I felt like I had connected with something important, with something of value in my life and in the world. And, to make it brief, I just stayed with it. I stayed with it from that point on because of that compelling sense.
When you say a value, and I know which we're going to get more into detail, the value of meditation. But in that instant, in the swim meet, did it resonate with you immediately that you could use the meditation to kind of relax your mind and be able to focus on the meet? Did it actually play out right there and then? Do you remember? No. Oh, okay. I was just curious if it was like instantaneous or...
I'm a slow student. And actually that sense of value, honestly, it percolated for decades for me. Okay. It percolated for decades
so it was
before
simmering.
I began to have a sense. It was simmering for a very long time, but it was always there. And whenever I thought about, well, I'm going to give it up, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to find some other way to spend my time, there was this compelling sense of, there's something here, there's something here, there's something here that kept bringing me back.
Those little things that knock, that are the constant little knocks on the door of your brain, of your mind. You can't ignore them. You were saying that so I have a background in theater and I have a degree in theater arts. And I, for a very long time at a local performing arts studio in Malibu, taught theater. And one of the to kids, to adults too, that we actually opened an adult class because the kids class was so popular. So a lot of their parents wanted to start. You know what I ended up with? I ended up with people that had to public speak, like lawyers and real estate agents and people that were uncomfortable in front of crowds. But one of the techniques that I used, mostly in the beginning of the class, were meditation visualization techniques to not only relax them, but to be able to get out of their head, if you will, and kind of go on with the task or whatever. Otherwise, what I found with the adults, especially, not so much with the kids, but with the adults, is that they would be embarrassed or they wouldn't want to become a different character. They wouldn't want to do any of our exercises or any of the little skits or plays or things that we were, they had to kind of step out of their comfort zone to do that. And I just realized by starting the class in a relaxation, almost very yoga-like, because I'm a yogi, and meditation is a big part of the yoga practice, and you would never think of it being a big part of another kind of practice for either an athlete or for an actor. But I would say it could help you with just about anything that you're trying to accomplish. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And, I know a lot of people that I work with, that's the way they engage meditation. It's not a practice unto itself. It's a practice so that, it's a practice so that I can be more stable going into this work meeting. It's a practice so that I can connect with a sense of ease and relaxation when I'm speaking in front of this group. Even people whose main spiritual practice is something other than meditation, other than Buddhism, that's my background, Buddhist meditation, have engage this practice in that so that way. I'm going to do 5 minutes of meditation practice so that I can settle and my prayer will be deeper and less, as you said, in my head and more, in the fabric of this moment.
Right. Which I think, we're going to get into this because sometimes that's hard to grasp when you say, this is my intention. And then you put a lot of onus on yourself to fulfill that. But what I think for me in being, I practice meditation daily. And I think for me, it just helps with the bigger picture of everything in my life, including the thing that I may have anxiety over. Whether, and we're going to talk about this, whether it's grief or a presentation I have to do or a class I have to teach or a meeting I'm going to be in or, a first date, whatever it might be, the practice overall helps me in my life to navigate that. And the reason why I know it's working is because I have the before and after to compare. I have the before meditation and after meditation. And even my kids will say, Mom, you're just a kinder, gentler, easier person to deal with because my anxiety has been taken down. It's not the only thing that has taken it down, but it definitely has helped me. But getting back to your sort of journey, that was your segue into meditation and knowing that there was something there. But you haven't always had the easy ride with meditation. You had some experiences that told you this wasn't the direction you needed to take. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's close. That's very close to correct. So here I am. I'm a teenager. I am a competitive swimmer who meditates once in a while. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know what meditation was. I would basically just close my eyes and sit still for a few minutes and maybe sing a few Led Zeppelin songs and call that a day. But the important thing is I felt connected to the practice. I felt like I was meditating and I felt like I was a meditator and I felt like this was a part of my life. And so it allowed it to maintain its place, a place in my life. And then at a certain point, I started to study and practice in a more formal way. I worked with a successive pair of Buddhist communities that allowed me to engage formal curriculum, do long study programs on basic Buddhist teachings, philosophy, psychology, however one wishes to term it. And I also did long group retreats. I did a lot of long group retreats, 1 month, 4-week, 28-day meditation retreats. So I got a lot of exposure to the teachings and the practice of meditation through these two communities. And around about 2006, just after my own career as a swim coach came to an end, because I got up out of the water at a certain point, moved on deck, and was a coach for a number of years. Around about 2006, I started to teach myself. And then about 10 years later, about 2016, I think it started, my long connection with the second of those communities that I mentioned started to unravel. It really gradually became apparent to me that what was driving that community, that meditation community, in air quotes, was not the well-being and the development of the students. It wasn't even meditation, really, that was driving it. It was the self-centered impulses of the leader. And these impulses gave rise, especially with senior students, especially with long-standing students like myself, these impulses gave rise to an environment of manipulation and deceit that became so disturbing and so harmful that in February 2020, I made this difficult but necessary choice to just leave.
So wait, how is it harmful? I mean, you don't have to get into details, but what, I mean, we always think of it as how can it be anything but positive? It may not work for you, but you don't think of it as being harmful. How did it create anxiety, this disruption in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it's helpful to be specific on these things. And, there's a number of things that I could point to. I think one great example was, what I call the bait and switch. The leader was a master of the bait and switch, offering us one thing to draw us in, and then taking it away and saying, well, we're going to do something else. And that's a politician.
That's a definition of a politician, right?
And, so it doesn't sound like much when you say this as a one-time thing, but when it happens again and again and again, and one is expected to just go along, and a lot of times these baits involved people, myself included, really reorganizing our lives in order to, follow the thread that was the bait that was being offered. When it happens again and again and again, when it's coming from a person who we thought we trusted, when it affects our lives in ways both great and small, and when it happens year after year after year in a meditative context where people are more open, more vulnerable, what happens is, or what happened to me is, I started to feel like I was going crazy.
Oh, no.
I literally started to feel like I was losing my mind. And I am definitely not the only person. A great many students left in advance of me and left around this same time. But it becomes unclear what's real and what's not real, what's reliable and what's not reliable.
It's almost like brainwashing, right? Wouldn't you say?
I think brainwashing is a fair word. Cult is a fair word.
Yeah, getting it's manipulation at its best, really. Using your mind, using meditation to manipulate you into believing something that is not your truth is, to me, I mean, that's almost criminal, really. But that's manipulative. It's brainwashing.
Harmful. And so there's the answer to that question. How is it disturbing? How is it harmful? And I think that's it. And one of the tragedies of that, Debbie, is central to the Buddhist teachings and the Buddhist practice is this thing called Buddha nature, or basic nature, if that's an easier term for us. And that is that fundamentally, which means whether we're having a good day or a bad day, whether we have long hair or short hair, whether we're comfortable speaking in front of a crowd or not, whether we're meditators or not, fundamentally, we have built into us these qualities of sanity and tenderness and responsiveness, of ease, of well-being. And one of the tragedies of this whole dynamic, one of the most fundamental kinds of harm for me, was that my relationship with that basic nature began to get distorted by all this. It began to get twisted and confused and uncertain and muddied and obscured. And that a spiritual teacher would foster an environment that undermined their senior students in that way, to that extent. You used the word criminal. I'm going to go along with that.
Well, it is. It's travesty, and you're messing with your mind, which affects everything in your life, which is why we're going to talk about the good parts of how meditation can become part of our everyday life, why it's important, how to meditate. Is there a right? Is there a wrong way? What do you suggest? But we're going to come back right after a quick word from one of my sponsors, and we're going to break it all down, if that's okay. So we'll be right back after this quick message. Without looking at labels, do you actually know what is in the cleaning products that you use in your home? If you haven't addressed this yet, it's likely that you are spraying toxic and dangerous chemicals in your home. 3 common ingredients that you want to avoid at all costs are ammonia, fragrance, and bleach. These ingredients and chemicals can contribute to chronic respiratory problems, allergic reactions, allergies, cancer, hormonal issues, headaches, and more. So what's the solution to a healthier, clean home for your family? Teas Organics all-purpose cleaner and room sprays. Tea's products are formulated with the power of an essential oil blend. Her all-purpose cleaner gives you a clean surface, shower, toilet, or simply just use it to spot clean or dust, and all without harsh chemicals. And to make it even better, Tea's Organics all-purpose cleaner uses 100% organic essential oils and has a sweet yet spicy herbal aroma with hints of citrus. Imagine a fresh, inviting scent and sparkling clean home that you know is free from toxic, potentially harmful, and cancer-causing chemicals. I use these products, and I can personally attest to all of the above. And right now, enjoy a 15% discount by applying 15DEBBI, DEBI, to your order. So check out these amazing products by Tea's Organics that are healthy for you and your home. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Or if you're just joining us, welcome. We're talking all things meditation today and how you can bring meditation into your daily life with expert and teacher Neil McKinlay. And I'm so excited to have him because we're really going to dig into it right now in the second half of the show. So if you'd like to become part of the conversation once again and you're listening or watching live, the number here is area code 323-524-2599. If you can't call in, ask a question, make a comment, post-show, we're here for you, okay? So there you have it. So Neil, welcome back. Can you give a definition or your take on what is meditation? And I alluded to it at the top of the show, some of the statistics about why meditation, but let's get it from your point of view and, understand what you mean by how do we bring it into our daily lives. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. I love getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Yes.
And so what is meditation? When I do an introductory class, one of the first things I do is I stand in front of the whiteboard and I write the thesis statement for however long that class or workshop is going to be. And that thesis statement is meditation is a practice of connection. Meditation allows us to connect with the immediate experience of our life, whatever it might be. And how does it do that? So if that's what it is, how does it do this? Well, there's this central dynamic in meditation practice. And this is a dynamic that is evidenced in all the forms of meditation that I'm aware of. Not all the forms of meditation, just all the forms that I'm aware of. It's certainly evident in the style of practice I have been trained in and I teach. And that central dynamic is we take our attention, our ever-wandering attention, which is probably engrossed with a bunch of thoughts right now. Mm-hmm. What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? How am I going to pay for that? Who's going to pick it up? What about the groceries? Oh, my gosh. We take that wandering attention and we gently but precisely place it on something else. And the tradition that I've been trained in is an embodied style of practice. So we're going to typically put it on, say, the breath in the lower belly. We take our attention, our wandering attention, and we turn it toward the breath in the lower belly. We place it on the breath in the lower belly. And then we just develop our capacity to rest there. With whatever might be going on for us, we develop our capacity to rest right there. So that would be kind of the what and the how of meditation practice.
So when you rest right there, are you sort of clearing your mind of all that clutter to be ready to engage in the practice that for the moment, whatever that next 10 minutes or hour is going to be, let's say, that's the beginning to, I know the breath is really pivotal to meditation. I took a course a while back, which you might know. It's called The Art of Living, but it's really known as The Art of Breathing. And it's really a lot of breath works, which is separate from meditation, but they're all sort of interconnected, aren't they? Yes.
Yeah. And you raised a question. I want to go back to that question because I think if there's one thing I would like your listeners to take away, it's probably this. When we're meditating, we don't have to have an empty mind. When we're meditating, we don't have to get rid of our thoughts. The fact that we're thinking a lot during meditation practice is okay. It doesn't, I'll say, probably one of the main reasons people who want to meditate stop meditating is because they do a little practice, they have a lot of thoughts, and they think, well, I'm not doing this very well. And no one likes doing things not very well. So you kind of get frustrated and eventually you give up. What we're doing is we're taking our attention from those thoughts and shifting that attention to, let's say, the breath in the lower belly again. So it's a shift in attention, not a getting rid of thoughts activity. Those two are very different.
Yes, they would be. Okay, that's good clarification. That's really good. So when we talk about meditation and using it in our daily lives, is there a right or wrong way to meditate? Is there a certain amount of time? I dated somebody who was doing what are those meditations where you chant and I just forgot the name of it. But they were like that. They were classes, and I never went with him because he said that it's one of those things you have to build your way up to. Otherwise, it just seems so extreme that you're just going to be turned off from it's with a T. Oh my gosh, what's
transcendental?
Yes, that. So he practiced not just daily but several times a day. It was a very serious, and he was convinced from the time he started the practice, he would physically go to these classes, and from the time that he started this practice, his life changed. So I know that's a version, and it worked for him. But is there a right or wrong way to be doing this?
You talked at the outset about the difficulties in finding time to meditate. I often say to people, the easiest thing in the world to do is to not meditate. And this is true for beginning meditators, intermediate meditators, experienced meditators. For some reason, it's just very, very easy to not engage the practice. And so for that reason, I really feel it's very, very important to lower the bar as much as possible for ourselves. And that lowering the bar includes insisting that there's a right way and a right time and a right place and a right duration to meditate. Rather, what I tell people to do is, there's so many different kinds of meditation out there. There's so many different resources for meditation. Find something that resonates for you. And one way it might resonate is through the language that's used. There's so many different vocabularies used for practice. Sometimes people talk in Buddhist language, or sometimes people talk in scientific language, or people will talk in trauma language or psychological language, or I try to talk in very ordinary, everyday language. Find a presentation that resonates for you. And then look at the shape of your life, what the demands and responsibilities of your life are, and look at your inspiration to engage the practice and determine from that how much you're going to practice. And maybe it's 5 minutes 3 times a week. Maybe it's 10 minutes 5 days a week. Look at your situation and discern what's right for you, and then begin to kind of build that into your life. Because I've tried for years the other approach where I tell people what to do and it doesn't work.
No.
It just leads to people getting frustrated and and feeling bad about themselves and not practicing. So let's trust ourselves to find something where we know that, okay, this resonates for us.
Yeah, it's true with so many things in life. It's not a one size fits all. And, the bio-individuality of each person dictates that you find what works for you, but don't give up something that could be beneficial to you because it may work for your best friend to do it this way, but that doesn't work for you. I agree with that with everything in life, really. really.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. So, for instance, there's a lot of wonderful presentations of meditation that access scientific research and scientific language, and it just doesn't work for me. Does that mean that it's not a good way to meditate? Well, no, it's obviously helpful for a great many people. So if that resonates for you, go for it. Find someone you feel okay with. Look at your life, modulate based on that. And another thing you said at the outset, you used the phrase small, actionable steps. Approach it from that perspective. Small, actionable steps, and just slowly build it into your life in that way.
Yeah, and those are those statistically are the things that actually stick, and then you build it up over time, which is how, yes, I work with clients on every individual thing. And of course, I recommend my clients because they've got a goal when they meet. When they reach out to me, they have a goal to either lose weight, eat healthier, which kind of goes hand in hand, but basically to overall have better self-care and have a better, result from how they take care of themselves. But, everybody needs a coach. Basically, you're a meditation coach. It's hard for us to motivate and keep going and be our own cheerleader, or to have the skills or have done the research ourselves on things in life to change. And so that's what I do to help them. But meditation has become common in my practice, with whether I'm helping someone as a personal trainer or a nutritionist or whatever it is that, their goal may be. I always find that if they take a moment to find what works for them, and I always recommend Insight Timer, which I know that you're on, Neil, and we'll talk about all the ways to reach you and work with you, and that's one of them. Because on there you can put in what your time frame is, anywhere from 2 minutes to 2 hours. You can meditate. You can put in what it is you want to meditate, whether it's abundance or gratitude or grief or whatever it is. You put in a word and it will shoot you right to all of the practitioners and all the teachers that will get you through something that you want. And everything is rated. It's like a 5-star hotel, so you can see, or being on Yelp, you can see from ratings where, maybe this is the best choice for me. And so I talk my clients through that, because I think it's an important thing to, when they have a goal, and we all always have little goals or big goals or whatever, to create a practice in your everyday life that is going to help accelerate and help you meet that goal. And so when you talk about using meditation to become part of, to become a positive thing in your everyday life, what do you mean by that?
Well, you've alluded to this and I've kind of pointed in this direction when I was talking about my experience with that former meditation community. And I talked about some of the damage and harm being my relationship to this basic, or what in the Buddhist tradition is called Buddha nature. And that's really what I'm pointing to with that statement. So again, what is Buddha nature? What is basic nature? It's this affirmation that at our human core, we are undeniably clear, knowing, relaxed, at ease, tender, sensitive, compassionate, responsive. These are undeniable characteristics of our human being. Matters not for having a good day or a bad day, long hair, short hair, meditator, not meditator, as I said a few minutes ago. And when meditation brings us into connection, because remember that's my thesis statement, meditation is a practice of connection. When meditation brings us into connection with what's going on for us right now, what it's doing is it's bringing us into a closer relationship with that basic nature. And that sounds a little bit kind of woo-woo, like fancy dancy and stuff. So let's make it every day. One of the qualities of the basic nature is ease and relaxation. So people will often say, I like to meditate because meditation relaxes me. In fact, meditation doesn't relax us. What meditation does is it connects us with our life and allows us, through connecting with our life, to touch this basic nature, one of whose qualities is a basic sense of ease and well-being, a sense of ease and well-being that we can access regardless of how our day is going. And we can access clarity, kindness, wisdom, compassion, tenderness, responsiveness, empathy. All of those are there for us to touch and then bring into our lives. And I don't know about you, but when I hear those qualities and I think about those being more prevalent in my life and others' life, I think that's basically a good thing.
Those are really potent words, that you want your life to be, and you want those things. I mean, that is all the reasons, to meditate. I know we're talking about the breath and how essential that is, but is there a position or a time of day? I mean, you did talk about that earlier, that it just do it kind of thing, but some say laying down, some say sitting, is there a right or wrong way in terms of the actual physical? And you were just talking about, is there a physiology element to it that maybe, like our heart rate slow down, and we get into a more restful state, which in turn might help our digestive tract. What's the physiology of it, and what is there better ways than other ways?
Yeah, I think there is a physiological element. So the style of practice I teach typically offers a lying down and a sitting up component. We move from the first to the second. Oh. And physiologically, the lying down promotes just this amazing sense of ease and relaxation. I mean, most of us sleep lying down, not sitting up. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's partially reflective of the fact that physiologically lying down, there are all these responses of relaxation and settling and letting go and so on and so forth. And so too, when we sit up, there are some posture instructions that I will typically offer that are intended to help us remain in a more open, a more connected, a relationship with the earth of which we are a part that has a bit more integrity.
When you see pictures of people sitting, they have, they're holding, and I know in yoga, part of our yoga practice, we sit in this, I forget what it's called, I think it's your first finger in your thumb, or is it your second finger in your thumb that you hold, and it's kind of facing up, and on your knees, and I even posted a meme of that today for our show together. Is that significant when you're sitting in that position? Is that what you're alluding to about certain positions and certain ways we hold our hands? Rather, I know in yoga we open wide to let things in, as opposed to push down and face the ground to push things away. So is there a significance when you're meditating?
Mostly the instructions I offer around posture have to do with our connection with the ground, the seat, the cushion underneath, and then the alignment of the spine. And both of these promote, you talked about openness, promote a certain openness of mind and openness of body that allow us to settle into our experience more readily, connect that basic nature, which we talked about a few moments ago, and allow those qualities to flow through us. So, but before we go on any further, I want to add something to this. So I've basically just answered to your question. Yes, there's a right way to arrange our body when we're meditating. And I want to actually refine that and point out that when I offer these instructions, okay, we're going to lie down, here's how you're going to lie down, and then we're going to sit up, and here's how you're going to sit up. I always let people know that these are only blueprints. And now your task is to adapt the blueprint to the reality of your life. So for instance, a very simple example, part of the blueprint is, okay, when you're sitting up, sit away from the support of the chair. If you're on a chair, sit away from the back of the chair. Well, what happens if you've got a weak core or lower back issues or shoulder and neck pain, and that instruction actually exacerbates those situations in a negative way? At that point, I think it's really important for people to understand that those instructions are only blueprints, and we have the agency We are empowered and we have the agency to adjust accordingly. So if you need to sit back, in spite of what the blueprint says, in spite of what I've said, that's what you do. If you need a beanbag in the low of your back, between you and the chair, that's what you do. If you need a yoga block back there, that's what you do. And that's really my approach through all of the instruction I give, which comes back to something we were saying a few minutes ago. Is there a right way and a wrong way? There are traditional instructions, and I deeply believe in these instructions and believe in the value of knowing these instructions. And we then take these instructions and adapt them to the reality of our lives.
Makes so much sense. So let's say, well, I'm going to just tell you what I do, and then we'll talk about, in the last 5 minutes that we have left, we'll talk about how to reach you and how to work with you, but also talk about how, somebody can get started. But what I do to make sure I don't forget, or that I do take the time, because my life being every day is different. I'm not a 9-to-5 practitioner. I'm got this client here, got this client on Zoom, got to go drive to this client, got to go teach this class over here. Then, oh, wait, I want to take this class at this time over here. Oh, wait, I have my granddaughter over here. My kids, my friends, and like anybody else, my life can be hectic because that is life. So to assure myself that I can practice every day, I do it first thing in the morning, which puts me in a laying down state. I don't even get out of bed. And right away, I go into, and usually whoever the teacher, the meditation teacher is, will tell you, if you're laying down, this is what your arms should be up, or one hand on your heart, one hand on your lower abdomen. They'll tell you what to do. They'll talk you through your breathing. And I usually don't do, 2 days the same unless I'm really trying to manifest something very specific. And right now I am grieving, as you know, and so I am trying to work through that, and meditation is helping me. So that works for me, and that's what I've found for the past 4 or 5 years that works for me. Totally different than my ex-boyfriend who had the transcendental experience. This is the way that it works for me. If somebody wants to start, what's the first thing they can do? What should they be doing?
I think, like I said a few moments ago, the first thing you can do is simply find a source, a resource that resonates for you. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. Find a resource that resonates for you. Maybe some people like podcast recordings. Maybe some people like YouTube videos. Maybe some people want to go to the community center down the road, or further afield for something. Find something that resonates for you and trust that. And then begin the practice and the path of exploring that and adapting it to your everyday life. And I think that's a pretty good rubric for in terms of what might you look for in general from a tradition. And I think that given the varied shape of all of our lives, something that encourages us to adapt the instructions, the teachings, the practice to our everyday life is really important. And then, so that's one, find something that resonates. Two, find ways to adapt what you're doing to the realities of your everyday life. And then three, find as many sources of support as you possibly can, as makes sense for you. Again, meditation is a really, really easy thing to not do. And so having support, whether it's, okay, I know there's Insight Timer out there. Okay, I know I have a class every Wednesday night. Or, okay, there's this Zoom thing that happens Saturday morning that I take part in. Find as many resources and create a kind of infrastructure that supports you in doing whatever you're doing.
I love that. And now tell people how they can work with you if that's how they want to get started, and all the ways and all the things you're doing, because we talked about it in the intro at the top of the show. Now let people know how they can reach you. I mean, if they're watching, it's up there how to reach you, but tell them, but a lot of people are listening. So tell them what they can do.
Well, so I'm available on all the typical outlets, Facebook and Instagram and Insight Timer, my podcast, Bringing Meditation to Life, is on all the usual podcast outlets. Really, the best way to find me to kind of explore is my website, which is neilmckinlay.com. And I'm a rare McKinlay with L-A-Y at the end instead of L-E-Y. I'm excited to see that I have an L-A-Y and the little tag on the screen that I'm seeing here. So neilmckinlay.com. Because what I offer is really quite broad, it's the best place to get a good sense of all that I'm doing. Everything I'm offering, including the 2 communities that were mentioned, the subscription or the mentoring services that I offer, the blog that I put out there. And if you're so inclined, sign up for the newsletter. This comes out about once a month, and over time, it just gives you a good sense. It'll expose you to a good sense of the breadth of what I'm offering. And it also will remind you of meditation. It'll show up once a month, meditation update. And, I work pretty hard on the newsletters, and I would run into people here in town and they'd say, oh, I got your newsletter. And I'd say, oh, great. Did you really like it? And they kind of look sheepish and they say, well, I never opened the thing. Like, you never opened. I worked so hard and you never opened it. And they say, yeah, but every time it shows up, it reminds me that meditation might have a place in my life. And for me, that's a win.
And I was just going to say, even that little win is worth all that work you put into it. Even that. So, Neil, with all of my guests, I ask them to leave us with final thoughts, words of wisdom, just some final things you want to say to the audience.
I think my final thoughts, I'm going to come back to this, kind of woo-woo word, Buddha nature or basic nature. We are fundamentally wise and caring, empathetic, responsive, relaxed, and at ease. And I've seen this and I've experienced this over and over and over again. And meditation is not the only way to tap into this, but it is a way. And if you're so inclined, give it a shot. Give it a shot, because I don't think it's a big leap to look around and notice, the world is kind of changing around us. And in order for us to meet the challenges and the opportunities of this fact, I think we humans need to bring everything we are to the table. And what meditators offer this moment is a sense of familiarity with and fidelity to these yummy depths of our human being, and a willingness to follow these depths out into the world, into our lives. And give it a chance. Give ourselves a chance. I think it's worthwhile.
I love that. Well said. Just a final thought on my end is they are bringing meditation into prisons. Mm-hmm. So people, it makes for not such a tough life, and there's some awakening that can happen, and in prison, not that you're forced to do it, but it is pretty part of the curriculum of their day in many prisons now. And it's, a kinder, gentler soul. We can use a lot of that. And, just to piggyback on what you were just saying. Yeah. So on that note, I want to thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And I want to thank my audience. I want you guys to, you know what I'm going to say. I want you to go out and keep finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. Thanks for joining us. Get in touch, make a comment, ask a question, go to my Facebook page, go to my YouTube channel. While you're there, give it some stars, because we need all that. We need your support, and get involved in the conversation. We want to hear what you think about meditation. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Bye.